Divorced billionaire's shocking night alone. How a cleaner's tea changed everything at 3 a.m. In the city that never sleeps, chaos thrummed just beneath the surface. It was 3 a.m. when the silence shattered. Robert Callahan, a recently divorced billionaire languishing in his high-rise penthouse, was at the heart of it all. Alone. Drowning in the deep end of regret, he scrolled through social media images of a love he thought he had lost forever glaring back at him. His heart ached, a painful tightness in his chest, as the memories flooded back, yelling matches, silent treatments, shattered trust. He turned to the bottle, hoping to drown out the noise of his own thoughts. The faint sound of a door creaking jolted him upright. Was he alone? His pulse quickened, a shiver danced down his spine. He'd hired a cleaner that afternoon, a curiosity he barely indulged. Who was she? What if she spotted the worst of him, sprawled on the couch, sipping whiskey like it was water? Robert pushed the thought aside. He was a titan here, he didn't let anyone see him vulnerable. He glanced at the clock, its ticks echoing like war drums in a tense atmosphere. Suddenly, he caught a whiff of something sweet, herbal and earthy. Tea. His gaze flickered towards the kitchen, where the enigmatic cleaner he remembered stirred a pot, steam curling like ghostly fingers. Why was she making tea at this hour? His curiosity sparked. Was it a remedy or a disguise for something more? He felt drawn in, a moth to a flame, wanting to know. The air thickened with tension as the door to his heart cracked open, letting in doubt and dread. He felt it, a shift in the atmosphere. Darkness held its breath, waiting. The rich, inviting smell of tea wafted his way, a bizarre comfort in his solitude, but the night felt alive, its secrets packing a lurking danger. If only he knew what lay ahead, waiting in the shadows. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the tea swirled in the cup, shadows flickered at the corners of Robert's mind. Was it truly just tea, or was it something more potent, a potion brewing with the power to change his fate? Each sip sat like an unspoken promise, thick with mystery. Intrigued, he drew closer, the steel in his spine wavering. What revelations awaited? What corners of his heart would she poke at with that warm cup in her hands? As he stepped toward her, his heart raced with more than just curiosity. Was he about to cross a line? The steam danced up from the teapot, spiraling above Anne's head as she poured the hot liquid into a delicate cup. The soft clink of porcelain filled the tense silence between them. Robert's throat tightened. Was he really about to pour out his soul to this stranger, whose face was a mask of serene intent? He could almost see the threads of fate weaving tighter around him. Would you like some? Anne's voice sliced through the air, smooth yet flawed with an undercurrent of uncertainty. He hesitated, unsure if the drink was an offering or a trap. Curiosity pulled him in as he nodded, unable to speak. She handed him the cup, their fingers grazing briefly. An electric jolt shot through him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. It sent shockwaves through his chest, stirring feelings he thought he'd locked away, along with his heart's hope. As he raised the cup to his lips, the fragrance enveloped him, a sweet warmth mixed with the weight of possibility. He sipped slowly, the flavors bursting on his tongue like fireworks. It was unlike any tea he'd ever tasted. Somehow comforting yet sharp, it pricked at the edges of his vulnerability. His eyes met hers, confusion swirling in the depths of her gaze. Did she know what this drink might unlock? Fear coiled in his stomach, whispering tales of bitterness and betrayal, reminding him of all he had lost. Still, there was a strange eagerness that bubbled to the surface. Maybe he was ready for a change. Maybe he craved authenticity more than he wanted to admit, and leaned against the countertop, her body relaxed but her eyes alert, as if reading the waves of his unspoken thoughts. "You look like you're carrying a heavy load," she observed, her tone surprisingly gentle, the weight of her words smashed into him like a tidal wave. He opened his mouth to respond but found no words. Instead, he felt the knot in his gut tighten, an amalgamation of emotions: fear, longing, resentment swirling dangerously within. Could he really bare his soul to her? "There's more to life than just chasing the next deal, Robert," she continued, as if sensing the turmoil inside him. "Sometimes, facing yourself is the hardest journey, but it's worth it." Her words cut deep, waking something long dormant within him. The penthouse suddenly felt smaller, the walls closing in as his heart raced. With every second that ticked by, he could sense the cracks in his armor beginning to splinter. What if opening up meant facing truths he wasn't prepared for? What if she unknowingly possessed the key to his past, ready to unlock a door he would rather keep shut? But it was then that he noticed the way her fingers trembled slightly, betraying the calm demeanor she portrayed. What was she hiding? A flash of realization coursed through him, mingling with his own fear. They were both standing on the edge of a precipice, gazing into the dark chasm below. What secrets did she carry? The room thickened with unspoken words, like a heavy cloud ready to burst. Just as he began to form a question, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. Startled, they both turned toward the sound, heartbeats throbbing in unison. The door at the far end of the penthouse flew open, revealing a dark silhouette. Someone was here, someone unexpected. Panic surged through Robert, and Anne's eyes widened. "Who is that?" she whispered, panic lacing her voice. Robert swallowed hard, frozen in place, as dread creeped into his bones. The night had shifted again. What would the shadows reveal now? The silhouette loomed in the doorway, a shadow against the soft golden light of the penthouse. Robert's breath caught in his throat, heart pounding like a wild drum. Everything he had tried to guard, every cursed regret and hidden secret, simmered just beneath the surface. He stood frozen, a kind of primal instinct gripping him, urging him to flee. "Stay here," Anne urged, a tremor in her voice as her eyes darted toward the intruder. She leaned toward Robert, perilously close, as if shielding him with her very presence. The figure stepped into the light, and Robert's blood ran cold. It was a tall man, rugged and imposing, dressed in dark jeans and a leather jacket that looked older than Robert's fear but equally menacing. His gaze was intense, predatory, and Robert felt the air shift, thickening with a blend of confusion and immediate danger. "Robert," the man called out, his voice like cold steel. "We need to talk." "About what?" Robert managed, his voice cracking slightly. He could feel Anne's warmth beside him, yet it felt distant, muted by the tension in the room. The man's lips twisted into a mocking smile. "Oh, I think you know." He stepped forward, then halted, as Anne took a step in front of Robert, her expression fierce. "Get out," she commanded, the steel in her tone surprisingly powerful. "You aren't welcome here." The man laughed, a dark, throaty sound that sent chills down Robert's back. "You really think you can protect him? He doesn't even know what he's gotten himself into." He shifted his gaze back to Robert, a dangerous glimmer in his eyes. "How long do you think you can keep running from the truth?" "Truth." The word reverberated against Robert's mind like an alarm bell, drowning out the calm whispers of the tea that now sat cold in his hands. What truth? What had he done that warranted intrusion like this? A cold sweat trickled down his spine. Memories flashed, faces, deals gone wrong, a past that was not as buried as he'd hoped. "What do you want from me?" he croaked, feeling trapped like a deer in headlights. "Just a little chat," the man drawled, moving closer again, his demeanor confident, even amused. "You're standing at a crossroads, my friend. One way leads to freedom, the other a reckoning." Robert's mind raced. The pall over the room felt suffocating as Anne's determined stance filled him with a small flicker of warmth, grounding him. "You don't have to answer anything," Anne said fiercely, glancing over her shoulder at Robert, her eyes ablaze with both fear and defiance. "Just leave us alone." The intruder shrugged, like her defiance amused him. You think you can cover for him? This is bigger than you know, lady. Bigger than both of you. He turned back to Robert, narrowing his eyes. You're out of time. Either face your demons, or they will consume you whole. The echoes of those dark words settled heavily in the air. And S' presence felt like a shield, yet Robert couldn't shake the sense of impending doom. What did this man know? What had he uncovered? The churning in his gut transformed into a knot of dread as each moment stretched painfully, hanging like a pendulum. Enough of this, Robert whispered, feeling both her fear and his own encroaching. What do I need to face? Before the man could respond, the lights flickered ominously overhead. Shadows darted across the room, and the air felt electric, buzzing with an unbridled chaos. Tell me, Robert, the man hissed. What's it going to be? Robert's mind raced, caught in a battle between safety and truth, between the past he feared and the present he could hardly grasp. He looked to Anne, searching for her strength, but could only find his own will unraveling, and the shadows deepening closer. What were the secrets, and would he find the strength to confront them before it was too late? The room felt like it was shrinking around them, tension thick as syrup. Robert's heart thundered loudly, drowning out the intruder's mocking laughter that echoed in his ears. The flickering lights above them cast unsettling shadows, making the man appear even more monstrous, a predator stalking its prey. Answer me. The man's voice sliced through the charged atmosphere. You can keep burying your head in the sand, but it won't change the reality out there. Reality. That word clawed at Robert, reminding him of all the choices he'd made to get here, the darker corners he had scrapped to forget. Where did this man fit in? What did he know about the life Robert had left behind, or rather, ran away from, and turned to him, her determination pulling him from his spiraling thoughts? Robert, just tell him to leave, she said fiercely. You don't owe him anything. Is that so? The intruder shot back, his gaze unyielding, cold and penetrating. How much do you think he knows, lady? You think a guy like him can just forget the past? The electric shadow across the room flared with each second, like a drum about to burst. Robert felt a lump forming in his throat. He wanted to assure Anne that he was fine, that this would blow over. But deep down, the swelling panic told him otherwise. Who are you? Robert croaked, forcing the question past the growing knot of fear. What do you want from me? A sharp grin formed on the man's face, but his voice was devoid of any joy. I'm here to remind you of your debts, and I'm not just talking about money. You owe me the truth, Robert. Time to pay up. The chaos in Robert's mind materialized into fragmented images, faces from his past, conversations he wished he could erase. An envelope filled with cash exchanged in dimly lit parking lots. A betrayal. A cold resolution. How had his life spiraled into this vortex? All it took was one moment, one wrong decision. Whatever this is about, it can't be legal, Anne hissed, glancing towards the door, as if contemplating escape. Ignoring her, the intruder stepped closer, encroaching into their space, his breath heavy with intimidation. You've got 5 days, Robert. Clear your name, or watch how everything you've built comes crumbling down. Believe me, I know where to start. Get out. Anne shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Was it brave or reckless? Robert couldn't tell anymore. The effect was mesmerizing. Her strength sparked something inside him. Don't say I didn't warn you, the man replied with a shrug, retreating towards the door, but as he reached for the handle, he paused, a devilish smile resurfacing. You've been living under a shattered facade, Robert. That only holds so long before it breaks, and when it does, I'll be watching. As the door clicked shut behind him, Robert felt a rush of cold air wash over them, leaving a lingering unease. Anne pressed her hands to her temples, breathing deeply, and Robert mirrored her actions, trying to settle the wild chaos in his chest. What just happened? Robert whispered, more to himself than to her, still feeling the ghost of the man's presence. Anne turned to him, her expression faltering. "We need to figure this out, Robert. No more hiding." "All right, but what do I do?" Before she could respond, Robert's phone buzzed on the table, a stark reminder of the world still outside their bubble of shock. He picked it up hesitantly, fear twisting harder in his gut. The screen flashed a familiar name, the very last person he wanted to hear from right now, his lawyer. Now what? He muttered under his breath, dread flooding his veins again, and S eyes widened, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Are you going to answer it?" Taking a deep breath, he pressed answer. But as he raised the phone to his ear, terror gnawed at him, making every second stretch into an unbearable cycle of uncertainty. Is this the call that changes everything? He thought in despair. Or is it just the beginning of a nightmare? The voice on the line crackled to life, plunging Robert into a storm he feared could swallow him whole. "Robert? This is Marcus. We need to talk." The voice on the other end came through, sharp and clinical, slicing the air with urgency. "Talk about what?" Robert tightened his grip on the phone, bracing himself for a blow he was sure was coming. "I just received some information, it's concerning your case," Marcus continued, his tone morphing from professional to something more like alarm. "You might want to sit down." Robert's heartbeat quickened. A pit formed in his stomach. "What is it?" "Someone's been digging into your past, Robert. I mean, really digging. You need to address this fast, or it could blow up in your face," Marcus said urgently. Every word felt like a punch, summoning memories he wished he could leave buried. Robert cast a glance at Anne, who was watching him intently, anxiety etched on her face. "What exactly did they find?" "Evidence of your dealings, the ones you thought were discreet," Marcus replied. "It appears someone is out to leverage this. I don't know who, but they're closing in on you." Closing in? Panic washed over Robert. The walls felt like they were constricting again. "What do you mean?" "Let's just say your friend or foe, depending on how you see it, made contact with a few people. People who won't stop until they get what they want." Robert could feel Anne's eyes darting from his face to the door, as if preparing for an imminent confrontation. "What do I do?" His voice was barely a whisper now, weighted with a mixture of fear and desperation. "You need to gather everything you have on your past. All documentation, transactions, everything. You need to get ahead of this, and fast," Marcus urged. "If you're not careful, this could dismantle everything you care about. It's a race against time." Just as Robert was about to respond, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, reverberating through the silence like thunder. Both he and Anne stiffened, exchanging wide-eyed glances. "What was that?" she breathed, her voice taut with anxiety. "Stay here," Robert instructed, his heart hammering as he moved cautiously toward the door. He held his breath, straining to listen. Another crash, this time accompanied by muffled voices. He opened the door a crack, peeking out into the darkened hallway. Shadows danced along the walls, and the flicker of a flashlight caught his eye, darting back and forth ominously. "Robert!" Anne whispered urgently, gripping his arm. "We can't just stay here." He glanced back at her, knowing she was right. But every instinct screamed for him to retreat. He needed a plan. "We should grab your things and leave out the back. Whoever is out there might be looking for us." Just then, a figure came into view. A silhouette moving stealthily but deliberately. Robert's heart sank as the beam of the flashlight illuminated the hallway. He recognized the face, a symbol of his past, someone he thought he'd left behind, someone he had tried to escape. "Robert!" The man called, a twisted grin spreading across his face. "We both know you can't run from this." His breath quickened, rage boiling over within him. "What do you want?" he shouted back, crossing the threshold into the shadows. "Just a chat about your past. It's time we reunited, don't you think?" And clutched Robert's arm tighter, and he felt the warmth of her fear. In that moment, uncertainty churned within him. Would confronting this figure lead to resolution, or would it push him deeper into a nightmare? "Let us find out," Robert muttered, stepping forward into the darkness, feeling the shroud of dread settle around him. Could facing his past truly bring freedom, or was it the first step on a path of complete destruction? The truth was waiting, and so was the man with the flashlight. The air pulsed with tension as Robert stepped further into the darkened corridor, his mind racing. Memories blurred together, a rush of hazy flashes from a life he desperately tried to forget. That face, that voice, it all felt like a noose tightening around his throat. "Let us cut the games, Robert." The man barked, the flashlight beam dancing wildly as he advanced. "You know why I'm here." "Do I?" Robert shot back, his pulse echoing in his ears. Anger surged within him, mixed with the fear that had gripped him since the call with Marcus. Maybe it was time to confront it all, to take control, and squeezed his arm harder, her breath hitching. "Are you sure about this?" "There's no choice," Robert replied, though doubt gnawed at him. Backing away wasn't an option. Not now. The man paused, the beam finally resting on his face. A sharp, angular grin made his features seem more predatory. "You really think you can keep running forever? The past doesn't let go so easily." Robert's mind spun. Each word felt like a trap, a reminder of what he had built and the fragile towers he had constructed over years. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Oh, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. The big fish who thinks he can swim away from the net." He stepped closer, closing the distance, and Robert could read the hunger in his eyes. "But I'm here to make sure you sink." A sharp clang echoed in the distance, and Robert stiffened, instinct kicking in. "There is something more going on, isn't there?" "Smart man," the man replied with a sneer. "You've got people sniffing around your precious empire. It's a powerful game, one that involves lengths people like you have never fathomed." "What are you talking about?" Robert's heart raced, his pulse thumping wildly. "Let's just say, your skeletons have friends. They come out to play at night, especially when the stakes are high." With that, he turned abruptly, sending the flashlight's beam skittering away into the darkness, illuminating boxes and old furniture covered in dust. "Wait!" Anne urged, moving forward, but Robert pulled her back. "I need to know what he has, what he knows." Before he could second-guess himself, Robert lunged forward into the shadows. "Stop!" The words hung in the air, filled with an urgency that felt almost electric. Shadows flickered like flames, blinding him for just a moment. The man halted and spun, an almost predatory glint in his eyes. "You're playing a dangerous game, Robert. But if you want to play, let it be at the table where the real stakes are." Confusion laced through Robert. "What do you mean?" "I can help you," he offered, a sinister glimmer in his tone. "Or we can play hide and seek until you run out of breath." Time stood still as Robert weighed the choice before him. An opportunity, an unlikely, precarious alliance wrapped in danger. "Why would you help me?" "Because your fall will be more entertaining than your rise ever was. You and I could make quite a team that laughs at the burning fire you leave behind." He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "But the choice is yours. I'm not waiting forever." With each second that stretched on, dread twisted in Robert's stomach. "What do you want?" "Come find me when you're ready to really play," the man said, a smirk playing on his lips. Then he slipped back into the darkness, leaving thoughts of loyalty twisted among threats, and Robert was left with more questions than he had answers. "What just happened?" Anne's voice broke through the silence, heavy with confusion. "I don't know, but I feel like we're in the eye of a storm." With conviction stealing his resolve, Robert turned back to Anne, the darkness swallowing the last glint of the man's flashlight. Whatever game was being played, the stakes were terrifyingly high. The nights ahead promised chaos, revelations, and a dangerous descent into the heart of his hidden truths. And the walls were closing in. What choice would he make next as the game spiraled out of control? Where would it lead him, and would he even survive the journey? The silence pressed in around them like a thick fog, heavy with unspoken fears. Robert's heart pounded as he stepped back from where the man had just stood, the echoes of his threats lingering in the air. Shadows danced across the worn corridor, stretching longer and deeper, as if the darkness itself were alive, waiting. "Robert, we need to get out of here," Anne urged softly, her voice trembling. In the dim light, he could see the worry etched on her face, a stark contrast to the fear simmering inside him. Each moment felt like a countdown. "No," he said, shaking his head. "If there is something to uncover, I have to find out what it is." The adrenaline coursed through him, not just fear, but a lurking curiosity igniting a fire he thought long extinguished. "Are you insane?" she hissed, glancing around nervously. "What if he comes back? We don't know what he is capable of." But Robert couldn't shake the feeling that this was no mere chance encounter. The man had knowledge that could unravel everything he had ever built. It's better to face this head-on than live in fear. They moved deeper into the shadows, stepping cautiously among the abandoned furniture. A flicker of movement caught Robert's eye. His breath caught in his throat as he turned toward a nearby doorway, half-cloaked in darkness. "Do you hear that?" And stopped, her eyes wide. They both listened intently. A soft, rhythmic thumping echoed from the other side, a sound so out of place in the stillness. "What is it?" she whispered. "I don't know," he replied, inching closer. The instinct to step back warred with an overwhelming compulsion to understand what lay ahead. Gripping Anne's hand, they pushed through the door, and the wood creaked ominously. Inside, a cluttered room stretched out before them. Papers were strewn across a battered desk, the light from a single bulb flickering overhead. The thumping sound grew louder, rhythmic, almost maddening. Robert scanned the room, his pulse quickening as he approached a closed window. Before he could reach it, the thumping stopped abruptly, replaced by deep, rasping breaths. Panic surged through Anne. "We should go. Now." Robert turned, intent on leaving, but then he froze. There, against the far wall, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. His heart raced, fear smashing against curiosity. It was a woman, her features stark under the faint light, and she looked terrified yet defiant. "Who are you?" Robert demanded, stepping forward instinctively. "Get out of here," she rasped, her eyes wild. "They're coming." "Who?" Anne asked, her voice shaking. The woman glanced nervously at the door, then whispered, "The ones from the past, they know you're here. You need to leave before it's too late." Robert exchanged a frantic look with Anne. The room felt charged with danger, the air dense with unspoken threats. "What do you mean? What do they want?" "They want your secrets. The ones buried deep, the ones that will rise again." Her words rushed out in a frantic whisper, urgency melded with fear. "You don't understand the game they're playing." Before Robert could respond, the door behind him burst open. The smirk from earlier materialized on the face of the man with the flashlight, flanked by figures cloaked in darkness, their presence suffocatingly oppressive. "Looks like you found a friend," he sneered, eyeing the woman with contempt. "But this is where the real fun begins." Robert's stomach twisted at the danger that suddenly loomed over them. He glanced at Anne, her eyes wide with horror, and felt the icy grip of panic settle into his chest. How deep did the rabbit hole go? "Run!" the woman shouted, shattering the moment, and Robert didn't hesitate. He bolted toward the rear exit, dragging Anne with him. Footsteps thundered behind them, and adrenaline surged through his veins. They burst through the door, fear propelling them forward as chaos erupted behind. Each breath felt labored as they raced into the night, uncertainty gnawing at their heels. But the game had just begun. What secrets lay ahead, and who would pay the ultimate price? In this relentless dance with the past. As they burst into the chilly air, the night enveloped them like a blanket of uncertainty. Robert took a deep breath, barely allowing himself a moment of reprieve. A glance over his shoulder revealed the doorway now consumed by shadows. The echoes of their pursuit faded into the silent night, yet the danger was far from over. "Where do we go?" Anne gasped, her breath visible in the crisp air. Her eyes darted around, scanning for any safe haven. Robert's mind raced. The streets felt like a labyrinth, filled with hidden traps and lurking terrors. "We find somewhere to hide." "We can't just keep running," he replied, choosing his words carefully as dread curled in his stomach. They dashed down the narrow street, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the dark. An alley loomed ahead, its mouth gaping like a predator waiting for its prey. "In there," Robert urged, leading Anne into the shadows once more. They pressed against the damp wall, trying to blend into the gloom, hearts hammering in their chests. "Why did we stay back?" Anne whispered, her voice trembling as she leaned against the cold bricks. "You should have let her go. We had a chance." "Did we?" He shot back. "What if she knew something that could help us? What if those threats were real?" And shook her head. "You don't know what you're playing with. You're digging a hole deeper than you can imagine." He opened his mouth to argue, but the sudden sound of scuffing shoes stopped him. They both turned sharply, eyes wide. A figure stepped into the dim light of the alley, tall, cloaked, and menacing. Robert's heart pounded painfully as he recognized the silhouette. It was the man from the warehouse, his flashlight beam slicing through the darkness like a knife. "Time's up," he sneered, voice dripping with malice. He took a step closer, forcing Robert and further into the shadows. "Run!" Robert hissed, grabbing Anne's hand once again. They darted deeper into the alley, but the man was quick, the sound of his footsteps relentless behind them. Desperation clawed at Robert's insides as they emerged onto a cobblestone street. It was quieter here, the occasional flicker of streetlights casting an eerie glow across the desolate landscape. "Where now?" Anne panted, panic edging her voice. "There." Robert pointed to an old diner, its neon sign buzzing erratically. They sprinted toward it, the door creaking ominously as they pushed inside. The comforts of greasy food and worn-out booths felt surreal against their raw fear. A diner at this hour was usually a sanctuary, but it felt like a different world now. The bell above the door jangled, and every head turned. Robert caught sight of an elderly waitress, her brow knitted with concern. "Are you two okay?" she asked, the warmth of her voice a stark contrast to the chill settling around him. "Yeah, just a bit lost," Robert stammered, forcing a smile that a captain of shadows overwhelmed his cheerful facade when he turned. The man from the alley was nowhere to be seen, but that didn't mean they were safe. "Not yet." "Let us sit," Robert said, guiding Anne to the farthest booth. The shadowy figures might be lurking outside, predators honing in on their scent, but the diner was stifled with the buzz of chatter and clinking cutlery. It provided a brief illusion of safety. The waitress approached, and while Robert ordered water, his mind raced. "What if she's right?" he murmured to Anne. "What if we're in over our heads?" "Then we need to find that woman," Anne replied, determination sparking in her eyes as she leaned in closer. "She warned us for a reason. There has to be more to her story." Robert nodded, the weight of their choice hanging heavily upon them. The past was clawing its way back, and they needed to confront it. "If we find her again, we may have a chance." Before he could carry on, the diner door swung open, and a sudden hush fell across the patrons. Robert turned, dread curling in his gut. The figures from the alley had arrived, and their eyes scanned the room like hungry wolves searching for prey. "Get ready," he whispered, gripping Anne's arm tighter. "We need to leave. Now." But just as they prepared to bolt, the waitress returned with their drinks, oblivious to the encroaching danger. "Here you are, Hon. Are you sure you'll run?" Robert shouted, at once bringing every eye upon him. The game of cat and mouse spiraled into chaos once more as they skidded from the booth, adrenaline driving them forward. Would they escape, or was this the trap that would seal their fate? The truth awaited, hiding in the shadowed corners of the past. What secrets would unravel as they fought for their lives? As chaos erupted, the diner's patrons snapped from their reverie, eyes wide with confusion and fear. A cacophony of scraping chairs and startled gasps filled the air as Robert yanked in toward the rear exit. Heart racing, he pushed through the door, the cold air hitting them like a slap. They didn't stop running. The echoes of their footsteps soon mingled with the hurried murmurs from the diner, a distant reminder of the peril they had narrowly escaped. But there was no time to celebrate safety, not yet. The threat was palpable, lurking just out of sight. Which way? And panted, desperation lacing her voice. The cramped alleyways loomed, darkness settling thick like smoke. Robert scanned their surroundings, his mind racing. Over there. That old garage! He exclaimed, pointing to a dilapidated structure across the street. The metal door hung slightly ajar, a shadowy refuge amidst the night's terror. They darted toward the garage, slipping inside just before the distant sound of the diner door swinging open sent chills down Robert's spine. He heard footsteps, escalating in urgency. The flutes of sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, casting a frantic backdrop to their flight. Inside the garage, the scent of rust and oil filled the air, permeating the space with a heavy weight. It was dark, save for the slivers of moonlight seeping through cracked windows, illuminating motes that danced like spirits in the gloom. They pressed up against the cold concrete wall, hearts thundering. "Do you think they saw us?" Anne whispered, her breath hitching with every word. "Let us hope not." Robert's voice was steady, but doubt gnawed at him. "We can't stay here long. If they find us, this will be the end." They held their breath, listening. The sounds of the night crept in distant cars, rustling leaves, and the unmistakable crunch of gravel underfoot. Slowly, the footsteps outside faded, relief washing over Robert like a wave. But that relief was short-lived. A shuffling noise echoed from the back of the garage, sending an icy chill down his spine. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his eyes widening. "Yeah," Anne nodded, her voice barely a whisper. As they strained to listen, shadows shifted at the far end. A figure emerged from behind an old engine, eyes glinting in the darkness. It was a woman, her face obscured by tangled hair and a tattered hood. She stepped into the fading light, revealing a wary expression marred by panic. Robert wanted to scream. "Please help us," Anne said, her voice trembling. The woman's gaze darted around nervously, as if the shadows themselves might betray her. "They're looking for you. You shouldn't have come here," she warned, her voice low and urgent. "Who are you?" Robert managed to ask, frustration bubbling up. "Do you know what is going on?" "More than you can imagine," she replied, glancing back toward the door. "And if you stay much longer, it could cost you your lives." Robert exchanged a glance with Anne, fear crystallizing between them. "We need answers," he insisted. "You said they were looking for us." "Who?" "Stop asking questions. You need to trust me," she hissed, stepping forward. "And you need to leave now." Before he could respond, the sound of car engines roared to life outside, shutting down any opportunity for escape. "Get down!" Robert shouted a split second before the garage door slammed open with a bone-rattling clang, light spilling in as a group of dark figures poured in, agents of their doom. Robert's pulse raced, adrenaline surging anew. They were cornered. "What do we do? What do we do?" And panicked, eyes wide as they scanned the dark interior for any exit. "We fight," he said, feeling his resolve harden. "We find a way out of this." With the woman's fierce determination flickering in his mind, Robert took a step toward the advancing shadows. There was no looking back, they were out of options. In the heart of chaos, they prepared to make their stand. Would their choices lead to freedom or seal their grim fate? And as he looked at Anne, he wondered if this moment would ultimately reveal the truth they saw. desperately sought or the lies that could destroy them both. The air was electric with tension as chaos surrounded them, a storm brewing just beyond the garage walls. Robert's heart raced as shadows loomed closer, the faces of his past materializing within the encroaching darkness. And gripped his arm, fear etched upon her features. He felt a strange sense of clarity pierce through the haze. There was no backing down. The woman in the dark corner looked ready to bolt, but he took a breath, stealing a moment of courage. "Can you help us? Tell us what's really happening." He forced the words out, desperation rising in his throat. She hesitated, glancing back at the door where the dark figures began to push through, but her eyes flicked back to his, and he saw a glimmer of resolve. "They're after you for the truth, Robert," she finally breathed, her voice trembling with urgency. "You have secrets that are rising to the surface. They've been waiting for you to slip." The shadows hovered, chaos encroaching like a gnawing dread, but in that split second, Robert allowed himself a flicker of hope. "Then let us confront them. If they want a reckoning." His voice dropped, firm and determined. "Then let this be it. Are you sure about this?" And whispered, gentle but firm as her grip tightened on his arm. He could feel her fear, but he couldn't let it become his. With a nod, he released her hand, stepping into the fragmented light at the garage doorway. "Now!" the woman shouted, and they burst forward, adrenaline surging within them. They charged out, confronting the looming shadows as they spilled into the garage. "Look who decided to show up," a familiar voice sneered, one he thought he'd left behind. The dark figure stepped forward, his face lit momentarily by the moonlight, revealing that twisted grin again. "Enough games," Robert shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "Enough of the past holding me hostage. If you want the truth, here it is. I'm ready to face whatever comes next." The intruder laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the garage walls. "You think you can just walk away from your sins? You're deeply mistaken, Robert." "Sin?" Robert felt a flicker of anger ignite. "What you call sin, I call survival. And to survive, I need to confront the truths I've hidden away." "Then let us play," the man taunted, stepping back, a dark gesture that seemed to ripple like waves through the crowd of figures behind him. Suddenly, it was like a match was struck, igniting the fire between them. The group surged forward, an avalanche of intent and aggression. "Run!" Robert shouted, more to himself than anyone else, heart pounding as he grabbed Anne and the woman, leading them deeper into the chaos. They flew through the cramped streets, their heartbeats thundering in sync. "Where do we go?" Anne gasped, breathless as fear surged amidst their adrenaline. "Anywhere I can confront my past. I can't hide anymore," Robert fired back, quickening his pace. Every corner held the weight of his choices, every shadow beckoned with what he had fled. And he was done running. And kept pace, determination etched across her features as they entered a dimly lit hotel, weary but resolute. "We'll find a way to expose them," she declared quietly, and he felt an unyielding strength beneath her fear, a bond that wrapped around them like armor. They slid into a booth, hearts racing, adrenaline tingling in their veins. "What now?" Anne asked, her voice at once calm and urgent. "We gather everything we need to confront the truth, to turn these shadows inside out," he whispered, eyes scanning their surroundings as the weight of reality settled upon them. "We need to find the truth that will expose all of this, my past, their threats, and the power they hold over us." "That's it," the woman said, her voice steady now. "You have to gather everything. Every deal, every name, tie it all together and confront the players involved. Don't back down. Once you do that, you strip them of their power over you." Robert nodded, the tension winding tighter, his resolve hardened. It felt like stepping into a storm, a rush of exhilaration and fear, and acknowledgement that to break free, he had to face every shackle binding him. A distant siren wailed, the city outside alive yet eerily quiet as everything around them pulsed with anticipation. It was time. "Let us set the plan," Robert murmured, turning to Anne, fear and determination flickering in both their eyes. "We'll finish this. I won't let it haunt us anymore. Who's with me?" Anne took a deep breath, a glimmer of hope igniting between them. "Together," she said fiercely, clenching her fists. As they began to plot their next moves, the past swirled like a tempest, but soon they would emerge from the storm, drenched but alive with the weight of their truths. Together, they would dismantle the secrets, surfacing in the rebuilding dawn. The stakes had never been higher, but Robert was ready to confront what lay within, to rise above the shadows that had followed him for too long. This is where his story would take a turn. This was his moment to reclaim the life he nearly lost. And in that moment, surrounded by those who believed in him, he wasn't just the man they hunted for his past, he was a force of nature, ready to break free. If you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and keep this incredible journey alive. Flood the comments section with your thoughts. What do you think happens next for Robert and Anne? Your reactions and theories mean the world to us. And do not delay, share this video with at least 5 friends who are dying to dive into this saga. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.